All right. Hi, Ciara. Hi, Marco. I'm Christopher Gallardo with Real Roller. How are you both doing today?
Doing well, how are you?
I'm doing good myself. So I absolutely enjoyed this movie, especially sort of the sort of twisted dynamic that you guys shared. And I know that this film deals heavily with red flags in relationships, whether they be like parental or romantic. So for both of you, what do you think is like the biggest red flag in any relationship?
That's a great question. For me personally, I think the biggest red flag in a relationship is a partner who doesn't listen to you. What about
Bravo.
you, Marco? Yeah,
I don't know
don't
if I
even need
can
to
I don't
elaborate.
know if I can get a better one than this, but I definitely not listening is a red flag. And also being present, I think, right? Sometimes you meet these amazing people, but they're always planning, living in somewhere that it's not here right now. And what are you doing and looking at you and listening to you? I think present and listening go together. So I'm just complimenting. Sarah. Guys like have any like recent experiences with like people who weren't like necessarily great listeners or like weren't like present in the moment?
Wow, I don't know if I have, I feel very lucky. I feel like the people in my life, I've worked very hard to focus on building relationships with people that I feel like respect the people around them and who I feel like respect and listen to me and support me properly. So I feel very lucky that I haven't had any experience with that with anyone that I've been like close to. I mean, of course, like strangers walking down the street, I've had, maybe a driving in Los Angeles. Like I couldn't be more clear. I'm turning, I'm backing out. Can you please step out of my parking spot so I can park the car? But no, no, nothing major.
Yeah, me neither. I've been pretty lucky. And I have to say, I moved to the United States 5 years ago. And so that's kind of a restart, right? You have to restart your relationships. Most of the relationships where you had your whole life, of course, they're going to stay, but they're not going to be as constant as you was. So it was basically a new beginning in that sense. And I have to say, I've been very lucky. I've met wonderful people here. And I think also, but when you get as you get older, you start realizing like immediately, okay, this is a person who's there, who's interesting, or this is a person who's just looking for something, or this is the person who's just. So I kind of learn how to filter that, but I've been pretty lucky, yeah. So that you guys definitely had no problems with that. But on your characters, for you and Ciara, Eva is someone who is optimistic about finding love and sort of dismisses the signs that her mom warns her about. What was it about Eva's sort of naivete about being love struck that you believed had enough depth to be explored through your performance and dynamic with Marissa?
I think what's most admirable about Eva, and I don't even know if it's naivete. I think it more comes down to just a willingness to be hurt. It's this desire to love and to fall in love despite what she knows, because what, Judy has very clearly taught her throughout her life. She is courageous enough and brave enough to want to go out there and experience it for herself. And I think that that level of willingness and bravery is really interesting and exciting to explore as an actor.
I definitely see that. Like certain scenes that you guys share, especially later in this film, which are absolutely sort of heartbreaking, but understandably heartbreaking. And also, in a way, Eva sort of anchors herself to Theo in a similar way that also Cherry anchors himself to Emily. So, for
Yeah.
you as well, in terms of that psychological anchoring of love, what do you think one draws the line in realizing the warning signs were real and also just the cyclical nature of that in general?
I think the biggest warning sign is once you feel like you're starting to lose yourself. I think love is a very, very powerful thing, and especially those early stages where it feels, all encompassing and addicting. But once you're past that first sort of honeymoon phase and you're entering into the next, I guess, cycle of your relationship, if you feel like you're drifting away from the core of who you are and you're making decisions that aren't true to you, or more so you're pushing away the people in your life that are important to you and care about you, that's the biggest red flag. And I think the second you start to see that, you're pushing away your mom or, Emily, it's like all of your friends are where. It may be time to take a step back and reconsider what this relationship really is.
Definitely see that in sort of the earlier scenes as well with you and Marissa. But for you, Mark, though, on the other hand,
Theo just gradually fulfills that criteria of being narcissistic over time, but I feel like he's sort of a bit lovable in a sort of this way as well. So, what do you think is like the one specific detail about Theo's personality that you believe makes him sympathetic, sort of balance out the narcissism?
I think every narcissist is extremely sympathetic. That's how they use that in their advantage, right? They're completely. I think they're able to read people and see what they need and see what they miss or what they want, and give that. But that's going to cost something, right? After. So I think that's kind of the dynamic. I think narcissists are extremely intelligent people because they are able to use that in their advantage. Now, talking about Theo, I think I think it was very important for us to create a character that brings doubt in your mind. Is he or is he not? Is he the problem or is Judy the problem with all her traumas and she can't really see or she's not open like Ciara said, her character was really open for love and for being hurt as well because it's part of life and that's the beauty of it.
Mhm.
But Judy's not. So I think we were playing with that. So I had when I was creating Theo, I had this certainty that every narcissist is extremely seductive and extremely sweet in the beginning and extremely caring. Uh, but thank God in the movie we don't get to explore where this would go. And Sierra's character wakes up before, so I could only, I could just be able to play with that beginning and that seductiveness and that nice side of him, which was interesting to tap on as an actor.
Yeah, I also like how you also describe narcissists as being like extremely intelligent people as well, because it's funny since you also played another narcissistic character, that being a doctor as well in Gen V, Edison Cardoza. Aside from both of those characters being doctors, how do you think Theo and Edison fully showed like these multiple perspectives of narcissism?
Wait. Dr. Cardozo in Gen V was not a narcissist, was he?
Like he was a little bit. I
Oh
mean,
God, no! He was trying to save humanity. Well, I could argue that. I could even argue about Theo. I think people are going to have to watch to see if he really is a narcissist or not. But, but yeah, I think it's interesting. I've never thought about it. It's just the characters that came my way in that sense. I think narcissists usually have a very good mask that they put on of the nice guy. And I think somehow maybe I might look like a nice guy. I don't know. But
You,
yeah,
I think you are a nice guy. It's
thank
easy to,
you.
yeah, it's
Thank
not mask. That, yeah, you're,
Thank you. Yeah, so I think it's yeah, it's interesting to use this resource that you have in life to put it in a character. But I disagree about Dr. Cardozo and Jen.
I mean, he's definitely like the narcissistic. But in terms of this film, it also introduces like this term, that being narc with a K, as a label to call out a problematic relationship. So for both of you, how have you seen this term come into play from your own experiences, and how did sort of that influence what you did when you both brought it into Eva and Theo's dynamic?
I think it wasn't until after we shot the movie that I feel like I had a really strong understanding of what a narcissist looks like in a relationship. And then I started spotting it in a few of my friends' relationships or exes. And it was fun to talk about this movie with them and then dive into that relationship and be like, oh my God, you were dating a narc. For better or for worse. I mean, obviously, some very traumatic stories, but it was fun to I don't know, to relate to them in a new way and have this new perspective or understanding of what was going on that I think offers a lot of clarity. Um, what about you, Marco?
No, I think I'm gonna play the devil's advocate here for a little minute. I think we all have some kind of narcissistic level, especially in a society that we live today. And it's very important for us to really understand uh, what is a real narc codependent relationship and what is just maybe an excuse or some way you found to get out of there. You know, it's just like we listened this word narcissist more often than ever in the
Mhm.
history of society, I think. And I think we have to be very careful because there are a lot of levels, you know, and there are a lot of differences in what a real narcissist can be and how harmful he can be, or with someone who's just dealing with their own challenges, you know,
Mhm.
and struggles and go and so forth. So I don't know. My advice would be just let's use the word narc or the term narc carefully. So we also don't end up hurting someone who either wasn't aware of what they were doing and did it because they were also afraid or broken or scared somehow. Does it make sense?
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, sorry.
You can go. You can go.
I was just gonna say, I think that this is a legitimate, psychological condition, and it deserves respect.
Yeah. I'm defending my character as well. No, I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah,
kidding.
yeah.
I was really excited to see this film, and I just found it really funny, but also really sincere with how it handles so many different things. Like, one of the most interesting things here is that you use the word narc with a K as an actual term that Judy uses. So, what was the idea behind creating that term, and how have you seen that term come into play from your own experiences?
Well, that's a great question. How did narc with a K come to be? It's funny because in writing the script and trying to maintain a certain level of comedic sass, I just felt like Judy would have her own nickname for these people. Um, and so she talks about it being narc, like a cuss word, like a K, like a hard K. These people need to be warned, you know? And that, the typical psychology nickname for them is Narcy. And she thinks that that sounds like a Disney character. So it came to be that way. And I stuck with it, even though as people read the script, especially like friends who are readers and things like that, they were like, narc's never going to happen. It's never going to happen, Anne Marie. Like, it's not going to do it. And I was like, let me just, this is something important to me. And I think this is what it is for Judy, the character. It's very authentic to who she is. So that's the story behind narc.
That's interesting to hear. Were there like any other terms that you sort of wanted to also come up with or like add into the story, like besides narc with a K?
Yeah, I mean, narc bait, certified narc bait. When you are an empath, a high achieving empath that wants to help people, you are narc bait. Be careful. All the different types of narcissists that Judy, she nicknames a lot of different narcissists because, there are very technical and research backed, DSM categorizations of narcissists, but I feel like that's inaccessible for most people, including myself, who was like, what kind of narcissist was he or, she or whatever? And so she has all those fun terms like, do-gooder narc and know-it-all narc. And, like a know-it-all narc to Judy is like a cerebral narcissist, and Peter Pan narc, which is like, more of a vulnerable, can't grow up, those kinds of things. So yeah.
Prominent narc that you think that inspired sort of the role that Marco plays in this film?
Most prominent? That's a good question. The most prominent narcissistic profile is probably your grandiose, narcissist, with a healthy dose of covert. um, but that's probably where the inspiration for his character came from the most. Yeah.
It definitely seems like Marco is also inspired by your own personal experiences with narcissists. And since you actually dated one from your director's statement, you used that to sort of create this experience for the story. So, what was the one important lesson that you took away from that experience that really informed how you wanted to approach that while also approaching the mother-daughter dynamic of this film?
The important lesson I took from my own experience was that it can happen to anyone, that there's nothing, you should not feel shame for trying to connect and love someone. And that is the message of, I'm hoping the message of the film that comes through, that your shame of feeling stupid or dumb or I should never have done this is, you should put that aside and instead accept and love yourself for just trying to connect and be human and find love in this crazy world, you know?
And I think that sort of also really shows in like the red flag video email that's sort of pieced together throughout this film because it gives more insight into that psychological process that I know that you have some experience in. So how did your work in psychology allow you to explore that avenue of emotional connection through the creation of that specific part of the film?
Well, it's funny because that's a great question. You've got some good ones, Christopher. So my background in psychology, one of the things I wanted to do in this film was definitely balance the tone where, yes, we are learning about narcissism. Yes, we are talking about this particular phenomenon and this mental disorder. But at the same time, we're rooting and caring about a character, about a mother who is trying to protect her daughter from her own like past mistakes. Like if I can help you, I can feel better about what I went through because I was able to help one person, and especially someone that I love so much. Although in Judy's case, she's written a book, she teaches the class, she this is how she deals with her shame. So the video is like her last desperate attempt to try and educate. And it was a moment, it was a time for me to really explore sort of the inner dialogue I would give myself as I processed my own grief and shame around my relationship. So I really kind of, leaned into some of the self-talk or the talks I had with my girlfriends and the talks I had with my co-writer, Jenna, who, had to sit there and listen to me go on and on. So that's kind of where those pieces came from. Mm-hmm.
Also like connecting those pieces together. There's one element of this film that I think thematically just weaves this film together that stands out the most, being that the painting that Eva makes throughout like this entire film. So when you were deciding to how to visually represent those ideas, do you envision like the painting being one of like the thematic centerpieces of this film?
Christopher, another doozy. You are the best. These are the best questions. Yes, absolutely. And I'm so glad that you tuned into that. And I do want to give a little shout out to the artist that created all of those pieces. Her name's Maggie O'Neill. She's a artist and an advocate based out of Washington, D.C. And we always had a vision that those pieces, the paintings that Eva is creating, and Ciara Bravo worked with Maggie to understand her process of painting and mimic the way she paints her pieces. That those paintings would also have an arc to show Eva's journey and her own character arc of going from maybe a more of a naive girl to a woman standing in her power.